So let's see, who's in middle school? Who's in middle school? Okay. High school? Let me see. Okay. So I was directly between the two, like that summer between 8th grade and 9th grade, and I got a phone call from one of the high school coaches for the football team. And he was like, hello, Mr. Hill. I'm like, why do they do that anyway? I'm like 14. Okay, anyway, he's like, Mr. Hill, I think you should consider coming out to football camp. And he started giving me the pitch to come be on the football team. And I was like, first of all, he didn't know I weigh like 7 pounds. Like, he does not want me on his team. But he gave me this whole thing of how awesome it was. You get to like know people before you come to high school. You'll already be friends with seniors, and you get the team thing and the football games, all the fun. He like told me all the good stuff. But when they're giving you that, they don't tell you about what camp is like football camp. Like, they're not telling you about that you're going to be running until you think you're going to die. That what I'm talking about? It's going to be hot. It's going to be awful. There are going to be people slamming you to the ground. No, I didn't do it. He gave me his whole thing. Like, it's going to be great. And now I know a lot of you play sports, right? Let's see. Anybody play baseball or softball? Okay. Have you ever been hit in the face or in the body with one of those balls? Okay. Yeah, of course, because that lots of times. And it hurts, right? If you've played a sport, how many of you have been injured? Stepped on, kicked, punched, something like, yeah, that happens to most people. Most of you have had this where you played on a day that it was either freezing cold or burning hot. Like, you've had those practices and those games. Okay, so you know exactly about that. And the interesting thing is, as bad and as miserable as all that is, you keep playing sports, right? Like, because there's a lot of good in it. Like, there's a lot of reward that you get. There's a lot of fun. It may have all the challenging and icky stuff, but the hard stuff, but the reward for you is worth it. The winning, the games, the competition, the stuff with your friends, all of that stuff to you is worth the ick. Now, some of you are like, no, I'll play video games. I'm not doing that. But like those of you that do it, it's worth it, right? And now I was a band director, and we kind of did the same thing that coach did to me, to like the 8th grade kids. So like they'd be in band in their 8th grade year, and like, I'm going to quit. And so my job as one of the high school band directors was to talk them into staying in band. And so I would sit down with them and be like, now guess what? In 2 years, we're going to Disney World. And then this one, we're going to go to Corpus Christi, and you get to go to the beach, and your parents aren't going to be there. It's going to be amazing. Like I did the whole pitch about how, it's so much better. And I talked to them I talked to so many kids in the band. I never told them once, hey, now in August, we're going to be out on concrete when it's 105 degrees. Your shoes might melt to the ground, okay? And if you break attention to wipe sweat off your head, a senior will hit you in the head, okay? So I never tell them the hard stuff, okay? Because here's what I knew. I knew if they came, they would have fun and they would like it eventually. Because the hard part, nobody likes marching in 105 degree weather. Nobody likes football practice when it's 105 degrees. But the reward, the end, is worth it. Like, there's that part that is like good that you get to, but you have to get through the hard part to get there. You can't quit when it's hard to get to if you're never going to get to the good part. Now, here's what I was kind of concerned about and thinking about is that a lot of times, when people do what I do, like sit up here or stand here or whatever, when we talk about like following Jesus, we usually give you the Disney World spiel. You know what I'm talking about? Like, it's great. It's like, Disney World and follow Jesus. You get donuts and cotton candy and puppies. I don't know. We give you this thing about how great it is. And here's the truth. It is great. That's why we tell you that. Because there's so much good to following God. But I also don't want to give the impression that it's not sometimes really, really hard. Like, sometimes following Jesus is one of the most difficult things that you'll do in life. Like, truly trying to live for him can be a challenge. It can be hard. It can be difficult. And what I don't want to see is what happens so much of the time at band camp or at some sports camps and things like that, is people will show up day one because they got talked into it, and that's their only day. Okay, some of you have seen those people. They show up for the first day of practice. They show up for the first day of whatever, and they quit right away. Why? Because they go, this is not what I signed up for. I am done. And they quit and they go away. And what I don't want to see for any of you is that you get this idea that you want to serve Jesus. And some of you may even do it for a few years. But then something happens and you go, I'm not doing this anymore. And you quit. Because if you quit, you don't get to the good part. If you quit early, if you quit, you don't get to the part that is so good. And so, not that it's not good at the beginning. I think it's good a lot of the ways, but when the difficulty comes, I don't want you to quit. So we're going to look at something Jesus said where he basically said, it's hard sometimes, okay? And you'll see why I say that. But I just want to give one more thought to you. Hard is good, and you like stuff that's hard. So let me give you a couple examples. a little while back, I played Logan in chess. Y'all know Logan's good at chess, right? He will destroy most of you, okay? And I won, and it was great, okay? and I won't play him again because he'll probably win. If we play again, I got lucky. He's like, I'm definitely going to win. I don't even know how, and it was really fun because it was hard to win. Now, I'm teaching my daughter, who is 8, to play, and I destroy her, like just straight up. Now, do you think when I destroy her, like she barely knows what the pieces do, that I'm like running around like, yeah, I beat her? Okay, that's dumb, okay? Like, there's no real reward in that. Like, there's no, this last week, I went and watched Joshua's varsity soccer beat Centennial's varsity soccer, okay? Sorry for Centennial, but I watched that game, okay? It was pretty fun to watch. It was a really close game, okay? And I bet, Nick, wasn't that fun to play? I mean, I would think that, yeah, it was a fun game. Now, my son, this is his soccer ball. Look how little this thing is, okay? He is playing in little people soccer. Now, if I got his team, and we said, hey, Nick, I want y'all to get your team, and y'all are going to play my son's team, okay? And I'm going to tell you what's kind of, any one of them could beat the entire team by themselves, okay? Because they can't play. And here's the thing, if they played them and they beat them 80-0, if they go to school the next year, like, yeah, man, we beat all those 7-year-olds. They destroyed them. Okay, is there any joy in that? No. That's dumb, okay? But when you go and you fight hard and it's difficult and you come out on the other side, that is fun. Okay, hard is good. Don't be afraid of difficult. If you can't ever do difficult, you never get to really experience really great things. And when I talk about faith in God and following God being difficult, that's not bad. It's because that means there's something good on the other side. So we've been looking for the last 3 weeks about some stuff that Jesus said that like nobody really likes to talk about. We're going to read what he said today. You will not find on anybody's wall at their house. Like if you go to the Stevens house, there are crosses everywhere. There's their Bible verses. Bible verses. This one's not on the wall, okay? I guarantee it is not. Because there's some stuff Jesus said like people just aren't real happy about, but it is super important. So we're going to look at what he said and set it up with a verse before, and then we'll get into it. So it says, large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, let's see what he said, but first I just want to point out, there were people that traveled with Jesus that didn't really follow Jesus. They went around, they saw what he did, but they never became a disciple. And there are a lot of people that do that today, by the way. They go to church, they kind of like the Jesus thing, but they never really become his follower. They never really become a disciple. And I don't want that to be us. We want to be more than that. Here's what he said. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother and his wife and children and his brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. That on your house wall? No, I didn't think so. Okay. And he says, if you don't hate your family. Now, some of you saw hate your brother and sister, and you're like, like, yeah, I got that one. I'm a good disciple, okay? Because you already can't stand them. But that's not what he means, okay? And Jesus does this. Okay, last week, it's called hyperbole, okay? Ooh, big word. It's where you exaggerate something to make a point. Like last week, he said, if your eye causes you to sin, like, did you gouge it out? Okay, so guys, that doesn't mean if you looked at something you weren't supposed to, that you need to get a fork and get that thing out. Okay, that's not what it means, right? We talked about that last week. But what it does, he's talking about here is not that you hate your family, but he's making a comparison. He's making an example that, and put it like this, and there's some other scriptures that make this more obvious, but if compared to your love for him, it's like you hate everything else. Because like, you understand you love things differently. Like some of you, there's a fast food place that you love. What is your favorite fast food place? In-N-Out, Freddy's, Torchy's.
Not really any.
Okay, okay. So whatever that is for you, okay? So, I mean, Taco Bell, Freddy's, In-N-Out, I heard a bunch of different things. Okay, so you love that. Now, I want you to also think about a person who you really care about. Maybe they're a good friend in this room. Maybe it's a boyfriend, a girlfriend. Okay, well, whoever it is, okay, someone that you love them, okay? Maybe not like boyfriend, girlfriend, but you love them, okay? You care for them. Okay, so that's two different kinds. Now, if it turned out that if you ever ate that favorite fast food place again, that friend that you love would die. It's like, oh gosh, you're like, this one's dramatic. Okay, some of you are like, my poor friend is going to die because I cannot do without my Taco Bell. No, here's the truth, okay? If you really love somebody and there was a food that this thing was going to somehow hurt them, I know it's a dumb illustration, you would hate that thing compared to your love for them. Does that make sense? Okay, it's kind of dumb, but I hope that you can see that. You might still like that thing. You wish you could have, but sometimes you may even wish you could have that. But you're like, no, I love this person so much more than, a burrito from Taco Bell. Like, it's like, no, okay. Now, I want to take that same scale and move it down. And these are the people and the great things in your life. Jesus is saying, your love for him and your passion for him is supposed to be that different. That there's supposed to be that is so great that it's like everything else is hate. And then he goes on and he says, and this is why, he says, if you don't, you can't be my disciple. He says, a person who doesn't do this can't be my disciple. Now, that's really important if you know what you can't be to know what that is. So a disciple is this. It's someone who seeks to be with Jesus, to become like him, and to do what he does. Disciple, they want to be with Jesus so that they can become like him and do what he would do, to do the things that he does. That's what a disciple is. So he's like, hey, if you don't hate your family, which is weird to say, but if your love for him compared to that love, it's not that different, then you can't be his disciple. And the reason for that is, in your life, there are going to be things that come in conflict, okay? They come in conflict with each other. Sometimes you have to choose between two things, and sometimes it's easy. For example, for me, if you came and you said, hey, I have a drink. You can have a Dr. Pepper or you can have a Coke. This is easy. I love that. I hate that. Okay? Like I don't even think about it. I just go, and some of you are the opposite. I don't care. For me, it's easy because one, I hate. In fact, if this is all you have to drink, I'll just be thirsty. I don't like it. I don't want it. I hate it. Okay? And I love this one. It's an easy decision for me. I love one. I hate one. But sometimes decisions aren't that easy. Have you ever had this? I hope it's super awkward. So two of your good friends are having like a birthday party on the same day. That's uncomfortable because you're going to have to pick one, and the other one, you don't, but it's going to feel like to them like you hate them and love the other one. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you like them better. That's what it's going to feel like. You're like, ugh, I don't want to make that choice. Or maybe it's silly things, okay? If you go to a Mexican food restaurant, I hate these decisions. I'm like, I want the quesadilla, the chicken quesadilla. It's tortilla and chicken and cheese, and it's fried on a pan, and then you dip it in salsa, and it's delicious. But I also want the chimichanga. It's a burrito with the chicken and the cheese, and it's deep fried, and the cheese is poured on top, and okay. And I'm looking at this going, I want both, and then I have to choose. I usually choose a chimichanga, but it's like I want both because they're delicious, and you can't have both. You got to pick one. Okay, in your life, there are going to be lots of times when it comes to this, you are either going to be doing these things or the thing that comes in conflict with them. There's going to be things that come up in your life that you can either be with Jesus or you will do this other thing instead. They're going to come in conflict. And he talks about people. He talks about family. That was Jesus' illustration in this one, that sometimes it's the people in your life. Actually, in their day, this happened, okay? People would become a Christian, and when they did, their family would kick them out and say, you are no longer a part of our family. Now, that probably won't happen to you. There are actually some places in the world today that if you tell your family that you're a Christian in some Muslim countries, they will kick you out. Some of them even do what they call an honor killing. If they find out you're a Christian, the family, for your own sake, will come and murder you. Okay, it's like, that's what they do. Now, we don't have that problem here, but I can tell you one thing I have heard. I've known many people that sat in this room who, when they told their family they wanted to keep going to church, they started making fun of them. They treated them like they were stupid and treated them icky. I've known people, they are here tonight, who had friends at school say, if you're a Christian, we won't be your friend anymore. And they had to choose. Am I going to be a Christian? Am I going to let people know? Am I going to try to be like Jesus and be with him? Or am I going to have these friends? And Jesus says, okay, if you're not willing to say to those people, fine, then we're not friends. If your love for me is not so great, obviously you can't be my disciple because you're going to choose the other thing. And maybe it's not people. A lot of times it's stuff, it's things, it's activities. And look, we get to do lots of fun things, lots of good things, have lots of good friends. Not everything comes in conflict with this, okay? I have family, I have friends, I have activities, lots of things I do. But when anything does, if my heart isn't Jesus first, everything else second, things will come in conflict. And what will happen is I won't be with him. Well, I could, go to church, but I'm not going to do that anymore because I'm going to do this other thing. I could start to, do these things for God, but I can't do that because I've got this other thing. And over throughout our lives, there will be things that come in conflict. So a disciple is someone who does these things, and you can't be a disciple if anything comes above Jesus because it'll always come in conflict. When people or things come in conflict with you, being a disciple Don't quit. Don't quit being a disciple. Just because something is being the challenge, is being the conflict, don't quit in that moment. Look at somebody and say, don't quit. Don't quit. Now say it again. Say it a little louder. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit being a disciple. Because things are going to come in the way. Things are going to sometimes even people will be the problem, but don't quit. He also said this. So he talked about your father, your mother, your children, your brother, and then he says this, even your own life. That's a crazy thing, it seems like. Even your own life, he said, you cannot be my disciple. If even your own life is first, you love yourself more, then you cannot be his disciple. Remember, that's what a disciple is. So like in Jesus' day, there was a guy named Stephen, okay? Stephen may even have heard Jesus say this, okay? But Stephen was there right after Jesus goes to heaven, and he is doing this last one. He is doing the things that Jesus would have him do. He's teaching, he's reaching people for God, and he had a choice to make. Either he could quit and he could renounce what he was doing, or they were going to line him up on the wall and take some of these and throw them at him until he died. Yeah, that would hurt. And he chose to get hit with rocks. For him, doing this, doing the things that God wanted him to do was more important than his own life. Now, thank goodness, you are most likely not going to get beaten with stones for believing in Jesus, okay? That is not going to be a thing. But just because we're not giving up our physical life does not mean that we're not giving up our life, because there's a lot more to it than that. So giving up things sometimes is your desires. And there are people that will not follow God because they have a desire that God says to stop, and they won't do it. When it comes to becoming like Jesus, they're like, well, Jesus is like, I don't do those things, and you can't do that thing. And you're like, well, I'm not going to follow you then. See, you got to have your life as second to him. You're not going to begin to do the things that he does if you have desires that are against what he does, and you're not willing to give up those desires. That's giving up your life. And then here's another part of that. Have you ever heard anybody say, don't change who you are. You're perfect the way you are. You ever heard that? You're perfect the way. No, you're not. You're terribly messed up, okay? And you know how I know you're messed up? Because everybody's messed up, all right? Nobody is perfect. There ain't nobody in here who doesn't need to get better. I need to get better. You need to get better. Everybody does. And I can tell you this, I am not where I was years ago. I've gotten better because I'm becoming like him. I still have a long ways to go, okay? But I'm so much better. I used to get so stressed out about everything. This is some of you. I used to get so stressed out that it affected my relationships. It affected the way I slept. God changed me. I become more like Jesus in that way. I become more like him in that things don't worry me like they used to. I used to be, I hate this, really, really judgmental of people. People that were doing wrong things. I mean, you are an idiot, okay? That's what I just so like judgmental. God's helped change me, okay? I don't want to be a judgmental person, do you? And you know what? Some of us have things. Some of us are angry and bitter. Some of us are lazy. Some of us are jerks, okay? Some of you guys, okay, you objectify women, okay? Some of us do things. Look, I don't want to be those things. If I become like him, I won't be those things. But I have to be able to be willing to give them up, to give up my life, to follow him. So I think a lot of us live our life, love Jesus, like I love the Loaf and Joe's Raging Cajun sub. The Loaf and Joe's Raging Cajun sub is the best sandwich I've ever had in my life, okay? This is it. It's the only picture I could find of it, okay? And so for years, I ate this all the time. It used to be, there was a Loaf and Joe's on Bryan Irvin, up by the mall kind of, Hewlett Mall. And I lived up there, and so I ate there at least twice a month, if not more. This is my favorite sandwich, one of my favorite foods of all time. Then I moved to Burleson, so it was like 20 minutes to get there or so, and so I didn't eat there as much. It was a little more inconvenient, so I didn't go all the time. I just went when I could. If I was in the area, I went. And then that location closed. Now, the closest location is in Arkansas. It's 5 hours and 51 minutes from here. 51, I checked, okay, like 5 hours, almost 6, not quite, and hours from here. And since that is the only location, I have not had a Loaf and Joe's sandwich in years at this point because okay, driving that far to get a sandwich is just dumb. Okay, like no one's gonna. I found my commitment now. Now, if there was one in Dallas, an hour, I would definitely go for an hour. But there's a line in which I'm like, that's too far. I'm not exactly sure where it is. 5-6 hours is too far. 2 maybe. I don't know. Anyways, and here's the way I say this. A lot of us, I think we love Jesus about like I love this sandwich. If it's super convenient, if it's super easy, I'll go all the time. I'll be a part of what he wants me to do. If I don't have to change very much, if it doesn't cost me very much, if it's not very difficult, yeah. If it gets a little inconvenient, I get a little bit less in my commitment. And then there's a line, and I don't know where it is for some of us, where it's like, well, no, that's too far. Now, I think there is a too far for a sandwich. There shouldn't be a too far for me being a disciple of Jesus. If there is a too far, I can promise you this, the enemy of your soul, the devil, will find a way to make it too far so that he can get you away from what he wants you to do. There can't be a too far. We can't love him like we love a sandwich. We have to love him much, much, much greater than that. So let me give you a couple things about don't quit. When changing who you are to be a disciple is hard, don't quit. Sometimes it's hard to change who you are because you're used to being that way. You're used to acting that way. You're used to thinking that way. And it's hard to change. Don't quit. Don't quit because it's hard. Keep going. Say, don't quit. I got to make sure you're awake. Okay, here goes another one. When you have to give up your own desires to be a disciple, don't quit. When you have to give up your desires to be a disciple, don't quit. Okay, don't quit. Don't quit when you have difficult things. And you know what? Here's the thing. I may have some things that it's just a part of who I am. This is what I've always done. I've always acted that way. And he's like, you're not doing that anymore. Don't quit because it's hard. Because on the other side of that is something so much better. On the other side of that, you get to be free of things that you didn't even know you needed to be free from because you didn't quit. So the basic idea here is don't quit. If you decide to follow Jesus and be his disciple, when it gets hard, don't quit. Because sometimes it's going to get hard. And there are some things that take Christians out all the time. They're like, take them out, like knock them out, like get them out of the game. It makes you into a quitter. And the quitters always quit for the same reasons. Here's some of the reasons. The things that take out quitters: peer pressure. And that's why Jesus said, if you don't hate all these people, then you can't be my disciple. Because there will be people in your life that will pressure you to get away from God. Some of them will be super subtle. Some of them won't be so subtle. But if it's easy, if somebody else can say to you, a professor someday, a coach, a boss, a friend, whoever, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever it is, okay, if they can pressure you, then you can't be his disciple because you're a quitter. But if you are so committed to him, that does not matter what anyone does. If I get fired from my job, if my coach kicks me off the team, if they won't be my friends anymore, if I have to get a new girlfriend, if whatever it is going to be, I'll be his disciple, then this won't affect you anymore. You won't be a quitter. Hardship. Sometimes people get in a place, this is too hard. My life is just too hard. Why didn't God fix this? And hardship makes them quit. If you quit in the middle of a hardship, the sad part is God will get you through it, but you quit before you got there. It's just like quitting in the middle of camp, athletic camp or band camp or whatever you're in. You never got to the game. You never got to the good stuff. You quit in the hard part. And ironically, almost the opposite, pleasure. People quit because, I feel like it's just more fun to not be a Christian. And they never got to the really fun part of what it's like to be free of their struggles and their sins and those things. And here's the thing. The reason why you don't quit things like sports, those of you that do that, those of you who do some activity that's a challenge, something you have to work at, the reason you don't quit is the reward. The reward of the game, the reward of having that friendship with those people and competing together, and there's all kinds of different rewards. The reason you don't is because of the reward, right? I mean, it's a lot of fun when you get to that. And I want you to know that there is a reward of being a disciple. And there's three things. And one is you get to be with God. And that's part of being a disciple, is being with Jesus. And if you keep going, here's the reward. You get to live a life with God. And when you go through a hard thing, you get to talk to God and be with him and experience him and have him there to comfort you and to guide you. You get to be with God. You get to be God with now and when you die. You're going to be in heaven with him. And you get to be with him when you stay being a disciple. You get to become someone better because you're becoming like Jesus. You get to become someone better than what you are. Here's the thing. See, some of you struggle with anger. Okay? And here's the deal with this. Just be straight with you. If you don't let God get you free of your anger, this is what's going to happen, because I've seen it over and over again. You will ruin some really good friendships. And someday you will ruin a marriage. and you will be divorced, and you'll be looking back going, I don't know how my life is where it is, because you never got free of your anger. I know this though, if you become like Jesus, he'll wipe out that anger eventually. For some of us, it's just stress. You're so stressed out and you're so miserable. Did you know Jesus was never stressed? He dealt with his worries, and guess what? He can teach you to do it if you become like him. If you become like him, you'll get free of addictions and struggles and depression and all these things, and it'll be a process he works you through. But as you become like him, you get to become someone better than you are. And the final thing is, you get to do awesome things. He will do really amazing things through your life if you'll stay with him. Sometimes it's really hard though. I mean, when I came here, I came from being a band director at a huge school. We had over 250 students in band. We were, top tier competition, won stuff all the time, so much fun. And I came here and there were like 6 kids in the youth group. For 2 years, not a single person got saved. It was awful. I hated it. I would go home wanting to quit all the time. And I was like, this is so hard. I don't know why I'm doing this. It's been a long time since those days. I have prayed with literally hundreds of teenagers to get saved at this point. It's so fun. It's not me, but it's amazing to get to do those things. I have walked with different people, helping them get free of drugs, helping them stop cutting, helped people after they tried to commit suicide. I've got to do such fun things for God. And you will do incredible things for God and in your life if you'll be a disciple. And don't quit. So there's my encouragement to you. If you're a Christian, you've decided, man, I want to follow Jesus. Decide you're going to follow him no matter what. If anybody wants to come in conflict with that, they get to go on. And maybe they'll come around and maybe you can win them over to Christ, but no matter what, I am not walking away. I don't quit. I don't quit because I follow God no matter what, because, man, I want the reward. I want to get to know God and be with him and do what he wants me to do and do awesome things for him. So we're going to end with prayer, and this is what I would want to challenge you with in this prayer time, okay? If you're already a follower of Jesus, some of you got onto the Disney World version, and I want you to get onto the commitment version. You know what I'm saying? You got onto the sales pitch, and I hope it wasn't me, but if it was me, I'm sorry, because I want you to know it's difficult, but it's fun. It's good. And I want you to decide this. I'm going to be all in no matter what. And I think maybe there's a few of you here that you don't have a relationship with God, and you've heard people say, follow Jesus, it's fun. And you're like, yeah, life is already fun. I don't need that. And maybe this wasn't helpful, but maybe for you, it's like, oh, it is a challenge. It is real then I'm on board. And if you need to decide, this is a cool thing about God, you decide to do it and it all changes in that moment. So let's take just a moment. We're gonna look in our own hearts. So would you just close your eyes for me and just tune everybody else out? You need to talk to God. This is a cool thing. God will meet with you right now and talk to you if you will talk to him. And so if you are a believer, you're a Christian, you follow God, but you know that you have not been doing right, you're not really going all after him, and there are things pulling you away from him, decide right now in your heart that's changing. And if you are not a believer, you have not been following God, you wouldn't have even called yourself a Christian when you came in, and you want to change that tonight, I want to pray with you first. And I want to believe that is going to be different from this day forward. And so if you would say, I am far from God, I want you to pray for me right now. Would you lift your hand so I know who I'm praying for? Awesome. Cool. Thanks. Anybody else? Awesome. You can put your hands down. So a few of you that lifted your hands, listen, I'm going to pray out loud, and while I'm praying, would you repeat this prayer to yourself? You don't have to say it out loud, just in your own heart. It's a way of just confirming what you just decided you wanted to do. Just praying this to yourself and praying this to God. Just say, Father, I believe in you. God, I want to live for you. Help me to truly follow you all of my life. I know I've done wrong. I ask you to forgive me of my sins. I believe Jesus died for me. And now I want to live every day for you. In Jesus' name, amen.